too big to tackle. We just got to let it go. No, if we continue to let it go, it's going to be a detriment to the generations that are following us up, and most likely it's going to be a detriment to us. We're going to see that within our own generations because something happens to where, God forbid, all of a sudden you lose your income and you can't work and you got your place all paid for, and you think, well, it's okay. I can get by on a couple of beans and a few taters, and I don't have to buy a lot of these necessities of life. Well, guess what? At the end of the year, when the tax bill comes due, if you don't have the $2,000 or $3,000 that they want for that tax bill, then guess what? You're going to find yourself homeless. And there ain't nothing right about that. There ain't never been nothing right about it. And according to the Bible, and according to what these framers said, it's unconstitutional, and it's your God-given right to stay on that piece of ground no matter what they say or try to do. And, but good luck trying to fight them all off because, I realize I'm a realist. I'm not living in, Never Never Land. If they was to all show up on this ground right here, it would be another Waco. They'd have you all over the national news saying you were some kind of redneck fanatic trying to do whatever it is and make up some kind of story. And I promise you, before it was over with, they'd have you burned out and you'd be off that piece of property, even though they ain't going to do anything with it once they get rid of you. But by golly, they're going to take it away from you. And that in itself is a problem. No, I'm not trying to scare people into anything. It's just the reality of where we live. But we're going to have to face the reality of where it is. We're going to have to start walking in the truth of the matter when it comes to these personal property rights and the life that we have. Because if we don't have our property, then we don't really have our liberties, and therefore our life, we've forfeited our life. We've become slaves. See, and this is where we get into right now. We've got this thing going on in our Supreme Court over the Roe versus Wade again, and these people talking about it's their right, to do whatever by their bodies and what have you, and it's their free choice, what have you. But the problem with that, in principle, is we're not talking about property. If we were talking about property, the statements that they were making about those choices and their right to make those decisions and dispose of or recreate, that would be absolutely correct. But we're talking about life. And where we notice where we're talking in the Bible, where God said have dominion over, that's the one area that we don't have dominion over our brothers with their life, just our life. They're not property, and we're not property one of another. So therefore, we have life, liberty, and property. See, it's all tied together. So the Constitution protects life, and therefore we have life. We must protect that life because that's the first God-given law or liberty is life, and the liberty to live and live that life in the pursuit of happiness, you see. And they say, well, women have the right to choose with their own body. Well, I agree with that 100%. They do have the right to choose, but the choice was already made back before the action took place to create the life, okay? Once the life is created, that choice has been forfeited because now we must protect life. We don't have any choice of the matter. These are the rules of law. These are the only ways that our so-called justices of the Supreme Court, according to the rules of law and the rules of engagement, would be able to rule on the whole thing. The whole Roe versus Wade thing was a wrong ruling in the first place. The only reason why it's held up this long is because of the volatility of it, because we want to turn it into an emotional thing. And we want to turn it into something other than what it is. But the basic reality is we're dealing with life, not property. And if we were dealing with property, then yeah, it would be acceptable to do whatever you want with it. It's your property, but it's not your property, even though it's within your body. As we read in Genesis there, God said he created them male and female to replenish the earth. That was to recreate. The whole purpose of man and woman is to create life. And once that life has been created, now we are duty bound not only by law, but by the liberties that we enjoy to protect that life. There is no argument about that. It's just the way it is. And anytime we pass a law that violates that life, then according to Blackstone and Mr. Locke, then it's not even a law at all. So the reality of it is there never has been enforceable law that says it's okay to kill, because it's not. We must protect life. Therefore, we have the liberty to live, and therefore we have private property, which is what we use as a tool to enhance the liberties of that life. And as we live that liberty, as we live that life, then that property that we acquire and obtain is the significance of that life lived, and it's the statement that we make of our success in the life as we move forward. Even Abraham Lincoln was talking about the fact that we should gather up property as fast as we can, because it's a symbol or a badge, if you will, of our success. And so that is the purpose and the point of living here in this country. And that is how everything has blew to be, the most successful, powerful country as quick and as fast as it has been. And the basic deal of life is very simple. We protect life. We stand up for life. And we do everything to enhance and promote life. And then in that process of that life, we have liberty. And in that liberty, we have the right to pursue happiness or acquire property and live within that. And as long as those things are secured, then we have what we call a prosperous, harmonical society that is moving in a common direction. This whole thing about making it legal to kill people is nonsense, because what difference does it make what state they're in if it's just because I decide I don't want you around, it should be legal for me to knock you in the head and bury you in the ground? Well, go back and read Cain and Abel and see how that worked out for them. It doesn't work out too well, and that's the whole purpose. So we got to get back to the basic rules of law. We need to walk in those things. Sometimes we don't want to hear it. Sometimes it's not really what we want to do, but it doesn't matter. It still has to be the rule of law, because if we have a society that does not operate under the rule of law, then we have anarchy and chaos, which leads to tyranny again. And we're going to end up right back there, which is kind of looks like where we're heading, if we don't change our ways of thinking pretty quick here and start doing some of the things that are most difficult to bring these things back into a correction. We're going to have a hard time to do these things. Because the next thing that we're going to try to get into and talk about is the highest level of prosperity occurs when a free market economy with a minimal government intrusion happens. So when we have a free market economy where people can come and buy and sell and trade with the least amount of government involvement, you will see prosperity move and breathe. And that's exactly what we saw when Trump was president. And whether you like the guy or not, he removed a bunch of restrictions. He got the government out of a lot of business dealings with things that were going on. And our economy was growing faster and was stronger with zero inflation than any time in history, because he turned this mechanism loose. Now, regardless of what you think of Mr. Trump, he is an industrialist individual with a business head. And he did things to promote business, to promote this very basic principle that our forefathers placed in our Constitution as the purpose of our government, to protect these things and make sure that they go forward in these areas. And we saw it taking place, and the Democrats, or whoever you want to call, they got so paranoid about it, they had to find a way to shut this thing down. And you can call it conspiracy theory if you want to, whatever. There's plenty of evidence out there to prove that there's a lot of people moving things behind the scenes. And I have never understood why people within this country who have lived in this country would not want to prosper and improve and let this country be what it can be instead of trying to tear it down. Why in the world, if there are all kinds of countries out here in this world that are communistic, socialistic, whatever you want to call them, that you can live in, if that's the kind of government you want to live under, there is nobody stopping you from getting on an airplane and going there and becoming a citizen in those countries. Why is everybody trying to tear down the most powerful, absolutely most successful country that has ever been? Because it just don't make sense. It just don't make sense. But anyway, next time we're going to get into some of this industrialized type idea. We're going to get into these principles of the government being limited in these things. We're going to talk a little bit about capitalism and the proper operation of our economics. There we go. The basic economics of capitalism and how it works forth for, they talk about all these people that are billionaires and quadrillionaires. I'd say, hey, bring them, let them go. The more we get, the easier it's going to be for me to be one of them, okay? Anyway, I can see I'm way out of time here again. So I just want to make mention again before I get off of here about some of these resources. Check out some of these places. The National Center for Constitutional Studies is out there with lots of information. You got lots of these folks just writing these biographies you can get information from. We got Dan Fisher and those folks down there with the Liberty Pastors in Oklahoma. We got Chris Ann Hall. We got several others that are running around. chrisannhall.com. She's got all kinds of resources on her website where you can get in there. But most importantly, do your own research, dig and study. All I'm trying to do with these podcasts is get your interest into digging and finding out some of these things for yourself so that you will be educated enough to deal with the conversation when an opportunity comes up for it to happen. And I appreciate your time again, and I appreciate you listening. I hope everybody's doing all right. And I'd really like to hear your comments. We're winding down on these principles, and we're going to move into some little bit different areas here before too much longer. Probably get into some operations of the Spirit and the things of God. I believe I'm hearing the Lord tell me, and I've been doing a little bit of research on those kinds of things. And so that's something we probably move into when we finish up with these principles of freedom. But in the meantime, have a wonderful day.